for me to find out how different it was, and about, I don't know, a physical, everything was what was privacy was just not private, and everything what was physical was just out there.
The state of Rome is dead. The future of the Republic rests on me.
You've never been weak. Don't start now.
It's a full-scale famine. I can't rule Rome if I can't feed it.
The plan is the same. We make you a god. We kill anyone who gets in your way. If Gaius ever finds out what I'm doing,
it could be fatal. We'll need to rebuild the spine of that one.
it will be dangerous.
Matthew, how's it going? Kasia, jak tam wszystko?
A jak wszystko w porządku, dziękuję.
Dobrze. Matthew, we have our native language here. I had to shout out in case. Well, I'm happy to talk to both of you. First of all, I got introduced kind of to the show not too long ago recently, so I've been kind of catching up on everything. My first impression, though, I'm going to ask you guys in a second, was forget about the dating hookups and all these sort of things we do now with apps. They were really having a hookup culture out in ancient Rome out there. That was mind-blowing to me how that whole thing was going on there. I don't know if that's something you kind of got from reading the script initially or not, but that was my first takeaway from the show.
Do you know what? Maybe it's because life was so precious, so short, and you could be gone in any moment. It just got right. You could make the most of every interaction. But yeah, I totally know what you mean. It's there's a lot of love happening.
Kasia, how about you?
Yeah, well, it definitely gives you the idea of how the relationship, all about relationships and emotions, right? And everything what brings up emotions, and there's a lot about this in Domina, yes.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it makes sense too. Like Matthew, you said, lives are shorter back then too. So it's like, oh wow, you're getting, your 15-year-old is getting married. It's like, I guess back then it was pretty normal to do that. So it's an interesting sort of, being in modern time when we look back on the past. It's sort of really interesting to see how people used to live their lives. Whole lot different for sure.
Yeah. Like marriage was. I guess marriage was a utility, really. It was something that was. So I think people just get it where they can before they like.
But also, it was very interesting for me to find out how different it was, and about, I don't know, a physical. Everything was what was privacy was just not private, and everything what was physical was just out there. You would live in a house where the slaves would just sleep on the ground close to your bed, and you wouldn't decide about anything, and you wouldn't even decide as a woman for your body, because you would be just some kind of a machine for kids. And there was one scene in first season just really reminds you how different the perception of what is human and unhuman, or about emotions, that we have now and back then is the scene where we actually a funeral, when they bury their kids, dead, just early born dead kids, actually in the house. So it was just something that you would actually, once you settle a geography of your house, and the way that your dead children are buried under the ground in a main room, that is something that it just sets up all your idea about, hey, hold on, what? And everything what had to do with women in that period. Let's say a woman that was divorced, she had to leave their kids into a new wife. she would just leave the house without anything. And all these marriages between cousins and sisters and brothers, you know, all this, it was so normal and was so little about love and emotions, and it was so much about politics, about figuring out, and about survival. Yes, power and survival. And that is just mind-blowing how that period, it is a basis of our civilization.
That's so well said.
It was shocking for me, honestly.
Yeah. And even like you mentioned, people are constantly, there's no privacy. Like even on the show, just like you're in the airport, everyone's next to each other, around each other constantly, you know, like this sort of thing you don't get away from another too, because everyone's so kind of bunched up everywhere they go. That's also an interesting thing about that too. I couldn't survive in that world. I don't know about you guys working on the show. If you had these thoughts, like how would you do individually if you were thrown into this world?
Well, this is the thing. You need to have a power in order to survive. You know, some kind of power.
Yeah, and you just got to have your wits about you at all times, because it's just there's somebody there ready to stab you in the back at any moment. I don't think I could deal with that. God, the stress, the everyday stress of
yes, it's overwhelming. Yeah, I can only imagine. Luckily, you get to portray this world, but you know, don't have to live in it really. But it kind of leads me to ask you. I'm going to start with you, Kasia. What is the thing you look forward to the most when you go to work on this show? Is it like the costumes, going on the set, to being transformed into this world, or working with your fellow actors? Like, is there something you kind of look forward to the most on a work day when you go to film?
You know, we are so lucky to shoot this show in Rome, actually in actual Rome, and it really helps a lot. If you think of just getting out from your house or a hotel, you know, driving through the city and see the actual Rome, and then getting into a Cinecittà Studios where the ancient Rome is all built up, but it's not much more different of what you see from your room. It really gives a lot. And I think, you know, we started first season, and then a pandemic happened and the whole lockdown, so we didn't have opportunity to share with our friends and family or even journalists an incredible journey we had on set. And believe me, it is mind-blowing. The set of Domina, it is something. And that was the thing that when the pandemic happened, and also in the second season, we couldn't bring any journalists and any friends much on set because of the security, right? And so the one thing I always thought that this is, once you're there, you actually feel like you're in the middle of that period. Everything is so realistic, and it's so big, and it's so massive, and there's little details. You just sit down and you look at where you are, and every time, it's been the second year, I've been just standing in the middle and staring on those walls, on those details, all these fabrics and all these bracelets, thinking this is unbelievable, and I'm so lucky doing it.
Matthew, what about you? What are your thoughts sort of on a work day? That was really well said. I mean, I feel it too, just listening to Kasia about that.
You should come on set.
I'd love to. It looks amazing. So
yeah, I mean, I'd second all that. I mean, a year after finishing filming now, and I look back at the time, I appreciated it. I loved, like say, driving through Rome and seeing the old world, and then coming into the real old world of our set, you know, and then just dropping into the story with costume and stuff on. But also the fact that, so the second time we had a little village, the Domina village in Cinecittà. I mean, Cinecittà's got history in itself, you know, that just to be able to shoot in Cinecittà is a real privilege. But to have our own village in Cinecittà, like the Domina village, it kind of felt like it was our home, you know. It was like, you know, we sort of started to dominate the place. And bearing in mind, you've got like Dwayne the Rock
Yeah, I
Johnson.
guess you bet you
in a
were
film.
walking around dressed like a freaking Augustus.
Yeah,
in
exactly.
Cinecittà,
We're
Rome.
walking around with all these
Yes,
like,
just like,
these
yeah, sometimes
A-listers.
you would just, you know, what I would do sometimes, the set is big, so sometimes they, you know, sometimes every time they would take us on set with the car, but many times happened that I just walk. I like to walk.
Yeah,
I like to walk, right? This is the way you walk, dressed the way you are, you feel like you're living, I don't know, some kind of an experience.
Yeah, walking through Cinecittà dressed as Augustus, and you know, like, and there's all these like A-listers as well doing big movies in the different hangars. But I do honestly think that we kind of owns Cinecittà for that moment. So just every day coming in set. But having said that, we shot at some amazing locations as well. And I suppose one of the highlights for me is when we went to, I think it was Tivoli. Is it Tivoli? Kasia? Like,
you mean the old road, the actual realistic the road?
It was like
that
outside,
yeah.
It
was insane. Like we were shooting it, and it's the beginning of the second season. It starts like this with this freaking road, which is real. The road is real. It's ancient road, ancient road, and the stones are huge. And we were there with the horses, and that was actually tricky because, you know, but it's real. Like you're suddenly surrounded by real stuff.
We're not just shooting on sets; we're actually shooting in, you know, on the spots that are, you know, like where they've been. So you couldn't get that anywhere else. That's the joy of shooting Rome in Rome.
Amazing. We're out of time. This went by really quick. I could talk to you guys for hours probably about the show and just in general, but it's fantastic. I really love the authenticity of it. It really, you can feel it as a viewer, and both of you make it come to life. So this was great. Thanks for taking the time to talk to me, and hopefully there's so much more to the story and more seasons.
Cool.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Do widzenia, Kasia. Bye,
Do widzenia, cześć, dzięki.